Welcome to another episode of the Not Scrum Done podcast. I'm your co-host, Adreanna Marshall, and that's my amazing co-host.
Grand Scrum Master Scott, greetings everyone.
Today, we're going to be diving into the topic, is Scrum dead? There have been a lot of conversations online about this. Some people are saying it is, some people are saying it isn't. We're going to explore the realities of Scrum in today's complex environments. We have 4 key points to cover, each shedding light on what's really happening in Scrum. All right, the first point is failed transformation. Many proclaim Scrum is dead after witnessing failed transformations, but the root cause often lies not in Scrum itself, but in poor implementation and resistance to change. Scott, what do you think about this? Do you have any examples for us on how you've seen failed transformations? People have negative stories, but it's really the failed transformation issue.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. Failed transformations. I've actually been a part of several. I was hired as a Scrum Master to go and actually get on the Scrum team, all to find out shortly after I got hired, we didn't have any work. But what do you mean we didn't have any work? Well, I was at a major financial firm, was the first one. And they contracted with a big consulting firm, a big recruiting agency to hire 50 Scrum Masters to come in to help their teams. So they went ahead and got the Scrum Masters while they get ready for the transformation to happen. Meanwhile, we as Scrum Masters are sitting on the sideline waiting, hey, when are we going to get our team? When are we going to get our teams? Oh, the organization's not ready yet. The organization's not ready yet. So check this out. It was so bad that, of course, we had to justify why we're working, right? It was so bad that we were meeting with ourselves. We would have a daily scrum with nothing but scrum master. We didn't have any team. The company wasn't ready. Now, for you to understand that, I want you to think about when people panic in the pandemic. They went ahead and bought a bunch of supplies. You remember the toilet paper, right? Exactly. So companies realized they had to go Scrum and Agile, but they wasn't quite ready for the implementation yet, so they wouldn't hire a bunch of people. I was included. I didn't know this at the time. We 2 months into it. When we're going to get our team? We're going to get a team. Oh, maybe next week. Maybe next week. But in the meantime, let's continue to meet with each other. And they just gave us task-oriented stuff just to do, just to keep us busy. Now I'm sitting there with my business hat on, Adreanna and everybody else, thinking to myself, all the millions, possibly even billions of dollars they spending, and we sitting on the sideline just doing menial tasks, just busy work, stuff that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. There's only so many times we can write the Scrum guide and create a PowerPoint, but we don't have anybody to train. Talking to friends that was, going through this period as well as me, there was a lot of Scrum Masters just on the sidelines, not really being executed to our full potential. And for me, that really bothered me. So that's what I would identify in terms of a failed transformation, other than what we've already talked about. We did a case study before, whereas companies did Ocean 11, but this is different. That is a failed transformation as well, where they didn't include the values. But I'm trying to give you a different perspective and say, hey, and just like you see some companies now laying off during the pandemic, when times was great, they hired a bunch of people to keep up with the demand. Now it's slowing down a little bit. You got to practice lean methodology. We're going to scale back a little bit. So hopefully that helps. Adriana.
Yeah, and I think that segues into point number 2, which is the Scrum market perspective. Perspectives on Scrum may vary widely depending on who you talk to. Novices may struggle while experienced Scrum masters see no decline in its applicability. Now, I've seen this where even for myself working at a startup, I really didn't have much support. So it was a little bit overwhelming initially. And you don't really have those people or like a senior Scrum master or someone who's been in the industry a lot longer to help you and deal with some of the challenges that you might face. And as opposed to when I worked at a larger company, we had a Scrum Master and a Scrum community of practice. So I was able to talk to engineering managers, other Scrum Masters, even program and project managers and other developers on how to become a better team and also becoming a better Scrum Master and how I can support my team a lot better. I know a lot of people are talking about this and making videos. I think sometimes there's a strategy of like killing the sacred cow. You just want to say something that's a little different. And, or sometimes some people genuinely mean it. They had a lot of struggles where they had failed transformations, or like myself, when I worked at a company without any support and we were all very new to Scrum, we did some very random things that didn't make sense, or we violated some of the Scrum guides. So you then end up picking up some of these really bad habits and you're like, well, this is Scrum. And you come to find out it's not. Or people are saying, we never improve from a retrospective. Well, Scrum clearly says you should be improving every single sprint. You can't blame Scrum in those situations. So that takes us to point 3, Scrum Master career opportunities. There's a perception that career opportunities for Scrum professionals are dwindling, but this often reflects a misunderstanding of the evolving market needs for deeper Agile experience. Scott, can you share an example on this one for us?
Oh, absolutely. This is a real-time example. I just had an interview with a major financial institution last week. I didn't know what to expect because the job description only had 4 lines. It was different than what I've seen before. It didn't talk about the Scrum Guide. It just had 4 lines, and those 4 lines was really all about communication skills. I was prepared either way. So I get on the call with the hiring manager, and of course, I asked the question, "What are you looking for in a Scrum Master? What do you need?" And she said, "Yeah, I want somebody that knows the Scrum Guide. I want somebody that knows the Agile methodology, but I really want somebody that can come in that can really coach and lead these persons to this Agile space. So I don't want anybody that's just so caught up into doing things by the Scrum Guide." So really, she was just highlighting she want more of a person with the soft skills. Yeah, we want you to know the Scrum Guide. We want you to know the soft skills as well. And I was like, wow. Again, I was prepared. That was just a different interview that I've had in quite some time. Now, Scrum career opportunity. All of my friends are working as Scrum Masters. I do hear in the street that sometimes people can't find a job, can't get a job. I would really look at your skill set because to me, those folks who have worked on their skill set, and they have the soft skills and the Scrum Guide and the manifesto, they got the soft and the hard skills, the technical skills and all that. They got the full package. I'm not seeing any of them having any problems. It's just the folks that maybe when we was doing that transformation, we was meeting with each other. Maybe you forgot to work on your skills and you allowed yourself to fall behind. But like Adreanna said, they looking for deeper Agile and Scrum experience. Not just that you're certified, not that you can just do the Scrum Guide and the manifesto and those type of things. No, you got to bring a little bit more to the table. Adriana.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example. I worked for a company that was hiring a lot of Scrum Masters, and I found out less than 2 years prior, they had fired most of their Scrum Masters, said, "We don't need Scrum Masters." And then they went into mass hiring Scrum Masters again. I left, fortunately, finding another job. After I left, like a year later, they go on layoffs, and they're still doing layoffs 4 years later. So it is one of those things where, 1, it depends on the company. 2, I think that goes back a little bit to point 2, where it's like the Scrum market perspective, like, what do we really need? And then they end up kinda doing the same circle when they want to meet certain budget metrics. But I also think when you're really good, you can bring value, you can always find another job even at companies that have layoffs. And that brings us to point 4, evidence of Scrum's effectiveness. Companies are now seeking more concrete evidence of Scrum's effectiveness, challenging Scrum Masters to validate the framework through results. So I think this is a really good point, not just at your company, but also on your resume. People want to see what are the results that you've been able to achieve and also what are the results of Scrum. For example, instead of just saying, oh, everyone's feeling better. We got the feels. We got the Scrum feels. It feels like we're doing so much better. Actually be able to talk about how much we've decreased the number of defects. Is it 10%, 20%, 30%? This is something you should be able to easily track, and you should be tracking anyway. So it should be easy to tell management and leadership, here's how we're improving, or return on investment, or what's your ability to innovate, or how much customer feedback are you getting now that you're releasing in shorter iterations? Those are just some of the ideas and things that can really help with point 4. Scott, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, Adriana, as you were speaking, I was thinking about a workshop that we went to this past weekend, an AI workshop. It was amazing. It was mind blowing, actually. And while we was there, somebody said something that really got me to thinking. I wrote it down. It was so good. Talking about Scrum is dead, the same topic that we talked about. And he identified client vulnerability. In other words, people are trying to capitalize, kind of like what you talked about earlier, killing sacred cows. Because of companies going through the failed transformations, now they're a little bit vulnerable. Is Agile and Scrum the way to go? And if we hire somebody, the point where we are now, they're going to be looking for more evidence from their perspective. Prove to me the Scrum works, but you and I know Scrum works. It's just that it didn't work for you at that particular time. So in that case, you're going to have to do some more metrics and actually prove your case, prove you're worthy. Now, some of the metrics I use outside of what Adriana talked about is predictability. And this is the example I gave in the interview I just had yesterday. That was on my resume, but she wanted me to walk her through it. So I did, because I didn't put on there where was the team at before I got there. The team was at 50% predictability, which means in sprint planning, they select a certain amount of product backlog items. And by the time we get to the sprint review, they complete those items. So when I got there, they was at 50% predictability. So if they take in 20 items, maybe they'll complete 10. But by the time I left, we was at like 105, 110% predictability. But again, predictability is a metric, but remember, that only tells you that we did some stuff, not necessarily the right stuff. So the points that Andriana is talking about, okay, let's talk about customer feedback, the ability to innovate. Let's add some of those things into it, not just predictability, not just velocity, some other things that you can quantify holistically, not just good for the team, but good for the organization, good for the customer. So some metrics that you can think about from that perspective. Andriana.
Well, as you can see, Scrum is clearly not dead, but perhaps misunderstood and misapplied in certain contexts. For those in the field, continue to adapt and educate, showing the real value of Scrum in your projects, showing the real value of Scrum in your organization. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to prove the enduring relevance of Agile. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights. And if you have any questions or want to share your experiences with Scrum, reach out or leave a comment. Don't forget to join our email list to receive exclusives from us. If you made it to the end of this video, you have an attention span greater than a goldfish.
Be legendary, everyone, but not Scrum down. And remember, Scrum is not dead. Nowhere near death.